Hi, my name is Eric Kinsey. I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana, and you are listening to Rulers and Riders, the podcast where we talk to creative people about what they do and what they ride. My guest this week on the show is Brooke Samples. Brooke is from Oberlin, Ohio. She is a demolition derby competitor. She's a motorcycle enthusiast. She is a junkyard proprietor, a hairdresser, and just kind of a all-around badass. I met her a couple years ago at the Venturo's Barbecue in Detroit, and we've kept in touch ever since. We just kind of get into her journey from living in a small town in Ohio, growing up in her family business, and just really being a fearless adventurer and somebody who's not afraid to take chances and step up to a challenge. She's a small town gal, but she's also got like a pretty big imagination about the world, and it's cool. We had a good conversation and a good chat, and it was a pretty good talk. I like to keep the podcast kind of centered around the Midwest. That's obviously where I live, where I grew up. I talk to people from all over the world, but it's always really nice to, just talk to like a cool down-home gal who is, kind of knows the way the world works and, just kind of gets it. So, good talk. I think you'll enjoy it. Let's talk to Brooke. First time I met you was, I think it was probably at Oily Souls like 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. I don't even know.
I think it was probably about 3 years ago. Yeah. At the Velodrome.
Yeah, at the Velodrome.
I think is when we officially met.
Yeah. And we were friends on Instagram before that. I'm pretty sure, but you were like, you like came up to me and you're like, hey, can you, keep my bike? And I was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I guess.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I had to put your bike in my van and, like, haul it. I think I took it to Matt's house or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, because I ended up rolling back to Cleveland with some girlfriends, and it was late, but I was coming back the next day in a car full of people, so instead of, like, riding my bike, and that was actually, like, one of the only weekends that I didn't drink anything at all. Uh-huh. So for whatever reason, I left it. But that was so fun. That was Venturo's Barbecue.
Yeah. I was talking to this cat from England, and he's in a band, and it's sort of like, real like heavily influenced by like MC5, Stooges, but also like Scandinavian rock and roll, like Helicopters and that kind of stuff, Triple Negro or whatever. And I was trying to explain to him about like being in the Midwest and like riding around Detroit and like going to the Velodrome and stuff. And I don't think he could wrap his head around it.
just Detroit itself, because, just like the abandoned buildings, and there's like a huge section that's pretty much in our district now, but it's all like pretty much run down abandoned buildings, and you don't really stop at red lights. You just gotta keep preventing.
No. Yeah, it's pretty badass to ride around Detroit on choppers, but at the same time, it's like I have to remember that I'm still in like a big city with like, high crime rate and,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, you never really know what you're going to run into, and it's a little nerve-wracking, but usually, like, whenever I'm running in Detroit, I got like a crew of homies at least, so I'm never really too worried about it, but yeah, I don't really try to get myself into too much trouble there.
No, me neither. So, now you're from Oberlin, Ohio?
Yes.
And how...
Born and raised, just on the outskirts of town, so not actually in the little town itself.
Right, and that's like famous as a college town, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what is Oberlin College is there?
Yeah, Oberlin College, they're actually like world-renowned for their Conservatory of Music, but they also, have had like a lot of like famous people's kids and stuff go there, and I know that Karen O from the Yeah, she originally started at Oberlin College, but I think she transferred to NYU. But
gotcha.
Yeah, it's a super rad, eclectic little town.
Right. Yeah. And what is it like? Is it a Quaker school or something? Was it like some religious affiliation?
Is it what?
Is it like a Quaker school or something?
No. Definitely not religious. Super rural, rich town. They have the Allen Memorial Museum, which is famous. It's free. I grew up there my entire life on the outskirts, and I think I went for my first time last year. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things. But, I remember being in the car with a little kid, and there was, like, dudes walking around in dresses with, like, huge mohawks and, just super eccentric and, totally different, especially from where I come from, because I grew up, like, on a borderline of two townships. So, yeah, it's claim hip now, but, I mean, yeah, it's come from, there's a lot of history there.
Yeah, for sure. And you...
Underground Railroad, all that,
Oh, yeah. It's funny, because I've tried to... it's funny, because, like, when you talk to people from, like, out of the country, they, like, know stuff. They have, like, kind of vague ideas about the United States. And then you like, talk to them about something like the Underground Railroad. And I'm like, yeah, it came through Indiana and Ohio. Because that's, like, the shortest... to Michigan. Because that's the shortest point from the South to Canada. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And I'm like, yeah, like we had Levi Coffin was like a big, like he had a house here, and there's like another house, like it's called the Hannah House. It's like a mile from where I live, and was another like Underground Railroad house, and they still have, I guess when they would be on the Underground Railroad, they would walk at night, and they would just go from like point to point, and they knew where to go. But when you got to the house, they would lock you up. So if you were like an escaping slave, they would be like, you have to stay in here, you can't leave. And they still have like these like cells with like wooden doors, and they're just like, I'm sorry, like you can leave tomorrow night, but like you just have to stay here until it's tomorrow night. Or
because I mean, like it was just in the paper. There was like 14 men. This was probably 6 months ago, and it was a crew of guys that would. There was a lot of families there that would take in, people on the run, and oh my gosh, I'm losing my train of thought.
Okay.
But so it makes sense that you can only leave in a certain amount of time, and they know the time frame of that, whether it's light or dark. But
right, yeah.
Yeah. Oberlin College actually was the first college for not only an African American to graduate from, but also a woman.
Right.
So that's pretty neat.
Right. So pretty eclectic, progressive history where you grew up there.
Mm-hmm. And then the outskirts are total hillbillies, rednecks, all of the things between that do not go to Oberlin at all.
Right. Yeah. Now, and you grew up in your family business. Did your Did your parents have the business when you were born, or was that something they did when you were a little older?
So my dad's pretty much been under the hood of a car since he was in diapers, and he grew up in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And then he had 5 brothers and sisters. They actually escaped like tornadoes in Oklahoma, like seriously drove through them to get out on their way to Ohio. And my dad said they moved to here the winter of '79, which there is, the blizzard of '79. He said that you could walk up and touch the street light. So that had to have been super crazy to just, come from tornadoes and then such a massive amount of snow that, as a kid, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he learned all of what he knew from my grandpa Gary, and then, so I've always been raised around cars. He always kind of like worked on cars out of the shop, and then the first repair shop I ever remember like being in is on Wall Street in Lorraine, and it was actually called S&S Auto, which is Samples and Sons. What's that?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just remember being probably like 7 years old, like on this like old school cash register, like pretending, to just do my thing and all that. And then the old man who owned that garage, he passed away. We ended up taking this gnarly ass pit bull named Butch that literally had to be on like a chain that was like thicker than a big man's fist.
Yeah.
But my dad couldn't leave him there, because he just got pretty much abandoned when the old guy passed away. And then we bought the junkyard December of 2007, and that was the year that I graduated, but I ended up moving to Breckenridge, Colorado, like that next year, so like the winter of 2008. So I wasn't really around for a while.
Yeah.
I probably came back 2011, and then so I've kind of been in and out of the junkyard since then. Went to beauty school, so yeah, I kind of come in and go. But my brother has been there pretty much the whole time, and he runs the junkyard, and then we opened a repair shop probably 2 years ago. Nice. And we went from the hood to, thankfully, Overland last year, so that was a good change in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. Now, do you still live with your family?
No. I live outside of South Amherst. It's like right in the country. I actually live above a friend's garage. There's like a little studio apartment, so it's kind of perfect. And it's my first house all by myself, so
nice.
It's pretty sweet. Usually got a ton of roommates or this and that, so.
Nice. Yeah, I'm always like really, I like talking to people who grew up in a family business because it's like such a different mindset. And and it's like when you're growing up like that, you don't even think about it. You're just like, oh, this is the way the world is. And
it was just always normal. I've been going to like demolition derbies since I was 3. You know what I mean? And pretty much before the junkyard, we had at least 30 or 40 cars in our backyard. We've got 11 and a half acres where I grew up, and so pretty much like the town came out and was like, okay, you guys got to do something about this, and then that's kind of when we went ahead and bought the junkyard. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, we used to have smash-up derbies. Pretty much my girlfriend's motor drive in my backyard, and it's super fun.
You have demolition derbies in your backyard?
Oh, hell yeah. For sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've had these, like, crash cars into trees and shit, and all that stuff in my woods, and, yeah.
That's great. When was the first time you got behind the wheel of a vehicle?
Oh, I was probably young. It was actually with my Aunt Dawn. She was super rad, and I used to like drive her Jeep like on her lap when I was like, I don't know, like 9 or something like that. And my mom, of course, never knew because she would have flipped. But yeah, and then so kind of just learned to kind of get the handle of a steering wheel with her, and then, learn to drive stick and all that stuff in my backyard, and
right.
So
pretty awesome. Yeah, I was probably about the same age, 8 or 9, I guess. And
for me, just kind of country driving, or
yeah. They would just like my grandpa would give me just like I used to drive the tractor. We had a tractor at work, and I would drive that around, or I'd drive like his old like beater work truck, the one we used to like haul trash and whatever. I'd drive that around, the trailer court, and all that stuff. But yeah, it's cool. It's funny because like when you get older and you start like meeting other people, and you've grown up in a family business, you're just like people. It seems like people have a lot more like they see more barriers in life. You know what I mean? Like they don't kind of have that like single-minded purpose of like how to like solve problems and overcome obstacles, and I don't know. I've always kind of credited that to working in a family business, my whole life more or less.
Yeah, I mean, and it helps, with just definitely everyday stuff and multitasking and stress levels and being something that would be a big deal to somebody else. To me, is like, oh shit, that's nothing. You know what I mean? So
right.
Just you're used to it, especially when you're like my family. We're all like workers, like we nonstop. I don't think my parents have ever been on an actual vacation, like a real one, if it wasn't to go see a family or to funerals and so
right.
Yeah.
So when you got out of high school, so you skedaddled to Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And why did you, what took you to Colorado?
It was probably like 2 years before that I did ski club in high school.
Oh, yeah?
And I learned how to snowboard, and I loved it, and it was super fun. And then I ended up dating a guy that used to live in Breckenridge, him and his cousin, like a couple years prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like all signed up to take classes like at the community college and all that. And then I was like, you know what? Let's just move to Colorado. So I bailed on all my classes. Like I canceled them all, and he did online, which I'm not an online learner at all. So yeah, we just me, him, and then his cousin also. We up and left, and I lived with 5 dudes and 1 chick, and she shortly between, a couple of months of living there was pregnant because she was dating this guy Dave, and yeah, it was a really funny scenario, but super awesome, and the mountains are great. I love them.
Yeah.
But yeah, snowboarding, just good times and traveling, and I'd never been to Colorado before, so.
Yeah. Oh, so when you moved out there, that was the first time you'd been there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I hadn't been any farther than pretty much like I had been to like Oklahoma, you know what I mean? Like
right.
When I was real young, and then other than that, yeah.
Wow. And
then from there, I got to experience like Utah and California and, all those fun states, just going on road trips and houseboats and Moab and
right.
Yeah. People out there are adventurous, and it's really fun to be surrounded around those kind of people.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, I had a girlfriend that moved from Colorado to Indianapolis. And she had, she's not my girlfriend anymore, obviously, but she had the hardest time moving from Colorado to Indiana. Like it was weird. Like she just couldn't adjust to it. Like it was, and I didn't think it was like that different, but I think it was pretty different for her. And especially,
it's absolutely different.
I think it's a lot easier to be a Midwesterner and go to Colorado versus like come from Colorado and come to the Midwest, especially especially if you're going to live in a city too, because it's even like the worst parts of Denver, like Colfax or whatever. I'm like, this is fine. This is great. It's nice.
Right.
And people are like, oh, it's super dangerous. And I'm like, No.
It's the danger level there compared to other places out here, definitely different.
Yeah. It's a funny, like, difference in culture, but the first...
Right. I left the mountains because there was, like, this sense of there not being a reality, which sounds super crazy, and I can't believe I even left because, I got a job at Breckenridge Brewery, like, pretty much immediately when I moved to town. So it was, like, one of the best restaurants, when the snow's falling or when it's not, like, mucky in between seasons. Like, we were busy pretty much all year round. And
sure.
everybody out there just makes bank, and then, like, you'll get a month or two off at a time between mud seasons, and then you, like, spend that money that you made and go travel, or you could go home for a month, or, you know, and it was just such a, like, a nonstop party and amazing, you know, just, like, lifestyle that I kind of was like, oh, my God, like, I feel like I'm in this black hole that, you know, if I don't leave now, I'm just going to get sucked in and keep, like, kind of wandering forever. So I ended up moving home, and then I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And you know, when you go into those, like, towns, like, up in the mountains, I mean, even, like, Boulder, but, like, Aspen and Salida and stuff, it's just, like, you see those people that, like, you know, they might have moved there in, like, the 80s, and they just never left.
And they never left, yeah.
And they're still, like, you know, wearing, you know, mountain people clothes, but they're all, like, roly-poly and gray, and I don't know. It's like a for sure, like, Colorado type of person. It's really funny.
Yeah.
So you got out of Colorado, and you came back to Ohio, and how was that adjustment to be on your own and, you know, kind of have all that freedom and be in that? Did you kind of feel like you kind of understood why people from Colorado have a hard time adjusting to Colorado or to the Midwest?
Yeah. I mean, definitely. It's just the people in Colorado are just really lighthearted and just really kind people. You know what I mean? Like, they'll say hello to everybody. And being from Ohio, like, I love it. I love the people here. They're pretty chill and kind of the same mentality all the way around. Like, just easy come, easy go. And, you know, I've met people in California, and I'm like, you're from Ohio, aren't you? And they're like, yeah. You know, so for me, it was, you know, no big deal. And I came home, like, the summer of 2011, and I think I started back at the junkyard then, helping out, and which was really cool. Learned a lot. And then I was like, okay, now what? So I went to beauty school. I actually was signed up to do this, like, building trade specialist program at, like, a vocational school for, like, the adult programs. Like, pretty much, like, a 101 on everything you can know on flipping houses. And I was super stoked, and then not enough people signed up. They canceled the class, and they haven't actually offered it since. So when that got canceled, I was like, okay, what else do I want to do? And I've always wanted to do hair, so I started, like, I think it was January of 2012.
Yeah. And how long were you in hair school for?
A whole fucking long year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. I went to an Aveda school, and if you're, like, 1 minute late to class, you get a TI, and if you get 3 of those, you get suspended for 2 days. So I was always hauling ass because it was 45 minutes from home, and I'm not very timely. So it was really difficult, but I needed a structured school, you know, so that's why I chose to go to Aveda, and it was good. It was, you know, a really good experience, and I took a lot from it. Yeah,
that's awesome. So did you stay in Oberlin, or did you live in Cleveland for a while?
No, I never lived in Cleveland. I kind of lived around the ways. Like, when I first moved home, I went to my parents' house. I was there, like, through beauty school and stuff, and I ended up, I moved to New Orleans, actually, New Year's Eve, right before 2015.
Right.
And I picked my girlfriend up in Asheville, North Carolina, and I had my dog. He's, like, this massive mix named Scooter, and we just went down there, and I pretty much was, like, smoking a roach. Like, I always smoke my dad and my brother's roaches. And I just got this fucking crazy idea to playing, like, the air drums, and I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to New Orleans. I had, like, a really good girlfriend down there. She gets her birthday, actually. Emily Cree. But, yeah, so I ended up down there, and that was, like, the first, like, actual kind of city that I lived in, but I wanted, like, more of a city feel, but it was, like, more of, like, I don't know, a community, like, that was not a city at all. It was fuck.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of always been my impression of New Orleans, too. It's more of a, I mean, there's definitely, like, it's a city, there's, like, an urban feel to it, but there's also, like, a big, like, I know a couple of dudes down there that put on the Ponderosa Stomp, and I don't know if you know what that is, but it's, like, it's sort of this, like, rock and roll festival, but it's also like rhythm and blues and Zydeco and country music and Cajun music. And it's like,
that sounds cool.
yeah, it's rad. And they just like dig up like old musicians from New Orleans. And,
right. Yeah. I mean, there's really a lot of incredible people down there for sure.
Yeah, and it's
and musicians.
Yeah, and it's crazy because people in the city like go nuts for it. Like they sell out every year, you know, just because they
right. No, it sounds really cool.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know that you could do something like that in many other cities besides New Orleans, you know, where you'd have that like massive amount of community support like
right.
that.
Yeah, it's definitely like a super special place. It's like with the community and what they went through, like after Katrina, you know, definitely brought them all together. And
sure,
you know, definitely the one thing that I took huge from there was like the street smarts thing. I'm a super friendly person, and I like will like welcome anybody into my arms. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I learned real quick, you know, like don't fucking tell nobody what block you live on or what neighborhood or you know what I mean, and just like the street smarts in that way, and you know, so that was really important for me to learn because you know it's a fucked up world and people are crazy and you can't really trust anybody.
Yeah, I knew this dude, Mike Hurt, and I think he lives in Detroit now. I haven't talked to him for a while. But he had moved from Indiana to New Orleans, and he was working at a restaurant as a busboy, and he didn't have a bank. And so every night when he would get tipped out, he would put all of his money in his wallet, and he would just like drive home, go inside his apartment, and he'd watch TV, play guitar, or whatever. And
throw it under the mattress.
Yeah, well, he just like left all of his tip money in his wallet. And he would have like hundreds and hundreds of dollars because he didn't have a bank account. Like he just, kept it in his hip pocket. So one night he said somebody knocked on his door, and he opens the door and there's this dude standing there with a gun, and he's like,
"Right, up in your face."
Yeah, he's like, "Give me your money," and he's like, "What?" And he's like, "Give me your fucking money," and so he like said his like the wallet was like right there by the door, and he just like opened up the wallet, and he said the dude's eyes got like really big because he had so much money, and he just grabbed as much as he could grab in the wallet and like just turned around and ran off. And he said he still had he said he still had like $300 in his wallet because he just had so much cash on him. Like it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. It wasn't for me, that's for sure. Like, I loved it, but I also would like rather have like a peaceful walk home than like every fucking neighbor holler at you and like, like I'm friendly, but sometimes I just don't want to talk to people, and it was just like, I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah. And how long were you down there for?
I was only there for 6 months, which is kind of what my plan was. And, yeah, I bailed out of my lease early. I felt bad. I had a really awesome roommate from Portland, but I just knew, like, being a hairstylist, it wasn't somewhere where I wanted to kind of put my feet down and, like, build a clientele. So
yeah,
I moved all my stuff to Asheville. It was in a storage unit for probably over a year or so, and then came home and then just got busy with, like, family business stuff and, like, went back, like, a while after and got all my shit and have just kind of stayed put since.
Yeah, I think when I first met you, I think you were pretty new back to Ohio. Like you had only been there for maybe like a year or something.
Yeah.
Not super long.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Yeah.
That was my favorite event. Oh my god, the Velodrome was so wicked awesome.
Yeah.
And I had little 250 Rebel and man, I'm pretty sure I scared the shit out of Josh Spellman that I fucking put on the back, and like for him to be terrified was pretty cool.
Oh, Spellman?
Yeah.
Yeah, today's his birthday, I guess.
It is his birthday.
Yeah. That guy, he's so funny.
That guy, yeah, he's something.
Yeah, he's a trip. I love him. Last year we were at Apocalypse Run up in, Upper Peninsula. And so we're in it's this little town. It's really not even a town. It's just like a 4-way stop. And there's like a restaurant with a hotel attached to it, and then another restaurant / general store / bar / hotel across the street. And then there's another corner that's like a little like vacant lot where we all camp. And they, you know, and they really cater to like snowmobilers. Like that's the big thing up there because, you know, they have snowmobile trails that go all over the UP. And then hunters and fishermen and whatever. So they're like happy to have our business because like by August it starts like drying up. So anyway, there's this bar called, I think it's called the Lumberjack Bar. And we go in there, and we would always go there because they had Wi-Fi. So we go in there, and this lady, Mary, Mean Mary is what they call her. She's like...
Mean Mary?
Mean Mary. She's like, are any of you friends with Joshua? And I'm like, Joshua? And she's like, yes, Joshua Spellman. And I'm like, yeah, I know Spellman. And she's like, he is not allowed in the Lumberjack anymore.
That motherfucker is not allowed in here. Sounds about right.
I don't know what he did. I think he like broke a beer bottle, just like threw it on the floor, or like he just did something like ridiculous. And she's like, get the fuck out. Like, so Joshua is not allowed at the Lumberjack in Strong's, Michigan. Always love that.
Sounds about right. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have had some pretty funny times with them.
Yeah. Always a blast with those dudes. I love them to death. So when you got back from New Orleans, was that when you got your first bike?
No, I got my first bike. I think it was like to the fall or end of the summer 2012.
Yeah.
So I was actually out at the junkyard, and I was standing over by the tire machine, and I told my dad I didn't even have like any friends that rode or anything like that. Like I didn't know anybody in the community. I obviously like grew up around bikes and things like that, but one day I was like, you know, like, oh, a motorcycle. And my dad's cousin Bernie was standing there, and he's like, oh, well, Carol's got a bike that she hasn't ridden in about 6 years, and I'm sure she would sell it to you. And so that was an 86 Rebel 250, and I flipped him $1,000, and my dad gave him a fat sack of weed. And
nice.
Yeah, so it was fun, and then, you know, I just, like, met friends through, I don't even know, just events and stuff like that around, like, the Cleveland area that I came pretty close with, and I think, like, my first full year of riding was, like, my absolute favorite, and that was, like, before, like, Instagram like became like such a thing, and like, you know, just cool codes and stuff like that before, you know, when it was like easy come, easy go, fucking good times.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, and I obviously love Instagram. I use it for the show and for my personal stuff and whatever, but it just, like, I remember, so the first Ramble Tamble I went to, which was like the second to last one, was like 4 years ago in May. And that was like my real, like, I mean, I'd been like writing about choppers and like writing for chopper magazines, and I'd had Harleys and stuff before that, and, you know, BSA choppers and whatever. But that was like the first time I went to like a chopper scene event, and I loved it. It was great. And then that's when I met like Matt and Spellman and Reese and I don't know, like just a bunch of like Chicago dudes and just a lot of like Midwestern people.
Right, Midwest, yeah, just really incredible people, you know, that are good times, you know, yeah, for sure.
Good times, and it's just, it's kind of a bummer because a lot of those people like don't hang out anymore, or I just don't see them as much anymore. Like they don't. It's like even within like 4 years, that whole crew of people has just, there's been like a sea change of like just there's like a whole new, you know, wave of people that came in, and it's, I think a lot of it is like you were saying about like inspired by Instagram and cool codes and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely love Instagram, you know, just because, I mean, holy shit, the amount of friends and people that you meet and the places you go through it is really awesome. But it was just like kind of like, you know, like 2013 and like the scene kids, you know, they just, I don't know, it was weird. But anyways, Ramble Tamble, the last one, I think it was 2012, was actually my first out-of-state motorcycle trip.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Did you?
Me and Anna Lee left, and I was on a little, 250, and took it down to Louisville, and it was so fun.
Oh, I didn't realize you rode to that one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so that was kind of a trip, and I took that bike also up to Milwaukee for Hoodbush, and that was fucking great, and people were like, wait, you're on a 250? And it was pretty much wide open the whole way, but it was like no problems, and it just fucking kept up.
Right. Well, Hondas are just such good bikes. I mean,
right.
They're just like super well engineered, and they take a lot of abuse.
Reliable, definitely
reliable.
A lot of abuse, and if you love your machine, it loves you back usually.
Exactly. The first like chopper I saw as an adult was this dude around here. His name's Eric Schrader. He's this big, tall, like German dude. I guess he's not that tall. He's like 6'3" or so. But he had built something like a 20 over, got like a 20 over Springer, like an old one from the 70s, and put it on a 250 Rebel. Left the swing arm on it, so it's just like a Rebel with just this extremely large, raked front end on it. And I remember I was driving down Meridian Street. This was like one of the main drags in Indianapolis. And I'm coming home from the bar. It's like late at night. And I see this thing, and it's just like bouncing like down the road. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And then years later, we became friends. And he's like, oh, I had a 250 Rebel chopper. He's like, that was my first chopper. And I was like, that was you. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, dude, you're way too big for that bike. He's like, I fit on there fine.
Well, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, but he would dog it all the way around town. So when you like got back to Cleveland, so you just basically met like all the like Cleveland area people, just like you would get on your bike and just like go to an event and just like meet people.
Yeah. I think honestly, the first time that I like met like my first group of friends was before I had a motorcycle. I think maybe because I didn't ride. Maybe I had a bike and I didn't ride for whatever reason. But I went with some like random friends, and it was the Lowbrow Get Down. I think it was the first one, and it's kind of that was like there's people I met some really great friends from Columbus, and then like Cleveland, and I just kind of rambled off from there, and that's kind of how it started. And then through those friends, you find out other events, and then you go to them, and meet kind of people and boogie, and randomly ending up on people's couches or in their yards.
Yeah, I got a tent. I'll sleep anywhere. I don't care. Yeah,
right.
It's super fun. Yeah, it's funny because that's how it, like those early, I mean, it sounds so weird. It's like, it's only like 4 or 5 years ago, but like, it really reminded me a lot of like when I was a teenager and like going to punk rock shows. Cause I mean, there obviously wasn't an internet when I was a teenager, but just like that's how you would do it. You would just like find out about shows, and you would get people's phone numbers, and you would call each other, and you would be like, oh, there's this rad show in, Oxford, Ohio. Do you want to go to it? I'm like, yeah, of course. And then there'd be some show in like, Southern Illinois or, Kentucky or, wherever. And you just like jump in the car and like go, and you would always meet up with the same amount of, same group of people. And that's kind of what I loved about like the pre-Instagram era of, motorcycles, or maybe like the early Instagram era of motorcycle scene. Because it was just a lot more like organic, and you just met a lot of rad people.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that's even just when you move away from home, and if you go by yourself and you're worried to like meet new friends, it's like typically you pick a job that you're going to dig and in a spot that you'll like, and then your first friends are the people that you work with, or the first friends that you have in like a motorcycle community, or this one group, and then they have all their friends, and then you have your friends, and then they all mingle, and then it just kind of like goes round and round from there, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. So, since you got back to Ohio, like, you have like a million jobs. Like, I'm always amazed. Like when I look at your Instagram, like you're like at this like you. How many jobs do you actually have?
On the books, one. Yep, one job, and that's at the Fev, the bar in Berlin that I work at. It's the only bar in town. Super rad. It started as a coffee shop, and it became, it's like super swanky now, but it's still just as weird. And it actually, the Fev stands for Flick Your Bean. It's like slang, Flick Your Bean in French, but we obviously don't tell the customers that. So on the books, one, but I help out at Junkyard, and then I also help out at my dad's repair shop, and those are both full-time, like Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturday. And I work at the bar Saturday nights and Sunday brunch. And prior to that, like, when was it? I think it was like last fall or something. I wasn't at the Junkyard. They had it all handled, and I was just quit a salon job, and I just had free time, and I love working with my hands and carpentry and shit like that. So I was helping out a couple of carpenters, sanding wood and listening to tunes all day and cleaning and doing that thing. And then my buddy BJ, his roommate, actually had a soul cleaning company. So that was super cool to experience for a couple of months, getting up the roofs and hooking up, like, everything. And they said that there was dudes that they went to school with, that went to school for that kind of thing, which obviously isn't cheap. And, I mean, they were fucking worthless, like, up on the roof, like, on their phones, sticking off, like, it's not working. And then here comes this little girl and bust ass, you know what I mean? And obviously I never went to school or anything for that, but I did a really good job, and, it was fun. I just pretty much like to do anything and everything I can to make a buck.
So, you got the Junkyard, you got the repair shop, you got the bar, and then you got, and you do hair. And is there...
Yeah, generally I do, like, a couple, like, people throughout the week, at least. I try not to get, like, too many on my list, because typically by the time I, like, sit down from, like, starting at 9 a.m., I sometimes don't, like, stop until 1 in the morning, and then get right back up and do it again, so... Yeah. But it's fun, I have, like, a little salon at my house, and, like, an old-school chair that somebody actually scrapped, like, 5 years ago, so...
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's something, like, my family really instilled in me, is, like, working 6 days a week. And now that I do it for my family business, I really, if I don't work on a Saturday, or, like, I work Saturdays and Sundays, sometimes both, but if I don't work at least one weekend day, like, I get all kind of twitchy, and I feel, like, real guilty. I'm like, I gotta get some shit done, Like,
I get the guilt part.
Yeah.
I definitely don't get twitchy. I'm like, oh, I'm free.
Yeah, I'm like, what? Should I be
Taking
doing
a
something?
run.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, for, like, our industry, it's, like, late June and, like, early July. Like, it really slows down a lot because, like, the factories have to retool, so they shut down for the week of the 4th of July. So I kind of just, like, slow down. And then, so I have, like, some work still, but taking, like, 2 weekends off in a row, which I'm doing this month, is just like, whoa, what's going on? This is so weird.
Right, it's kind of weird. It's stressful to just think about, especially when it is a family business and you have such a big part in it.
Right.
To just kind of not feel guilty or to feel, like everything's going to go smooth while you're home or, or while you're gone is fucking, it'll make you sick.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they've got it handled. It's just, shit is so crazy. And, with 2 businesses, Dad goes all day. He's got badass mechanics in his shop. And the one guy is, like, super great with the customers. But it's hard when he's doing a motor job or a transmission job and trying to deal with the customers in the front desk when my dad's gone. And, so I'm kind of, like, training a girlfriend at the Junkyard to get to the repair shop because it's, like, such a great opportunity as far as location and just the people in the community.
Right.
I would rather be there than the junkyard because the junkyard kind of makes me want to scream. And the fucking people, oh my god.
So is it
some characters.
Is it a salvage yard or like a scrap yard or kind of?
It's a salvage yard, yeah.
Yeah. So
we take pretty much most precious metals, any scrap cars, loads of junk, cans, all that stuff, and we just hustle every week. You know, fucking recycling money is what we do.
Yeah, I like it. So, and you have a car crusher, right?
No, well, we use an excavator for crushing cars. Which I definitely fucking had to run last night because I learned to run it probably 4 years ago, and I never actually picked cars up or anything like that. Like I would smash the 80-yard containers down with the bucket,
right? And
that was fun. And then my dad and my brother yesterday got into total piss, and Dylan left piss, and my dad left piss, and it was 4:30, and we had the our main scrap yard coming to swap out the 80-yard, and my dad's like, I don't give a fuck, just send it half full. And I'm like, are you fucking nuts? What's the point, to pay $200 to have him come get it if it's not even full? So me and the Steve Jeff that works there, he got on the Bobcat and loaded all the little shit from scrappers throughout the day, and there was 10 cars that were ready to be crushed in the container. So I quickly retaught myself how to run the machine, and it was super fun and also kind of wild because it was a shit show of you can't see when you're backing up, and you can't turn because there's so many cars in the way that I don't want to bust a window out on a truck that's over to the left, and so I'm all right, I'm pretty sure I moved everything to the way, back it up and hope I don't fucking smash anything. And I did a pretty good job, so that was super fun.
Yeah, and it's funny because though you're super capable and intelligent, you're kind of a small lady.
I'm 5'3".
5'3", yeah. So you're just out there running a big ass excavator, crushing cars, right. And taking care of business.
Yeah, my favorite is when dudes come in and they're like, who's in charge? And I'm like, hi, how can I help you? And they're like, well, where's they always ask my brother if it pisses me off. And I'm like, he's not here. What can I help you with?
Right.
So, yeah, it's funny, but I don't mind, really.
Yeah. I respect that a lot. I think that's cool about you. And it's funny, too, because, when I first met you, I was just like, oh, that's Brooke, hometown hustle. Cute girl, seems really fun and nice, whatever. And I never knew that you had such a kind of more of an automotive family business. And I was just like, oh yeah, now it all makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Yeah, it's just where I get my wild side from, and the demolition derbies in my backyard growing up, and I think my mom, it was probably 2000. I've lived on the same property my whole life, but there used to be 2 trailers on it.
Right.
And so those were probably there for about 10 years, and then we moved those, with a little wrecker, and there was 5 of my dad's big ass friends on the front to hold the truck down, and we just took them out ourselves and put a modular home there. One time my dad sent my mom to the grocery store in his wrecker, and she had a brand new, the only brand new vehicle we've ever owned was a Dodge Ram, double cab, nice truck, and she's like, what the fuck? And he's like, yeah, I need to use your truck for something. And she was like, okay. She kind of thought it was weird. And so, she goes to the grocery store to put all her groceries in this tiny fucking tow truck with a boom on the back. And as soon as she rolled out the driveway, my dad's buddy had a new Ford truck, and they were ass to ass in the driveway, with chains on the back doing pull off, and our neighbors were on their playset watching us, and it's always kind of been an entertaining place to be.
Yeah. I remember when I was in high school, so my family has an RV dealership, And when I was a teenager, like truck caps were really big. And my dad, I think it was probably my grandpa first did it, but then my dad had to like one up my grandpa. But he built this like rack for truck caps out of like 2-inch square tubing. And it was like this giant jungle gym that went over the truck. And he would like come pick me up from high school in that truck. And man, I was so embarrassed. Like,
oh my god. I definitely know about that.
Holy shit, yeah. But
yeah,
I mean,
my mom used to pick me up from track in like 5th or 6th grade, and her and my girlfriend Brittany's mom would be like sitting next to each other, like in their cars, and she would.
Oops. So right about here, either my phone dropped off or Brooke's phone dropped off. I'm not quite sure, but she called right back, and we pick up the conversation again. It happens.
I forgot what I was saying. I think, our moms would sit in the parking lot, and Brittany's mom would get my mom to turn, like, the wrecker lights on, and they would fucking, like, die laughing, and I was, like, dying, like, under, like, a shelf.
Right.
Yeah, that was funny. So, yeah, I definitely know about embarrassing.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's funny, but it's like, I look back at that now, and I'm just like, oh, yeah, that's how, you know, like, we fed our family and, like, paid our employees, and, you know, I could have, you know, wrestling shoes and, you know, whatever. And, yeah. So, but, I mean, when you're a teenager, it's a little hard to take, you know.
Right. Well, I mean, a lot of it is just, like, the other kids are such fucking assholes, you know. Some people, like, you know, now I fucking drive hoopties all day, like, and I don't give a shit about it, you know, but, you know, like, when you're young and your mom picks you up in some fucking beater, and, you know, it's pretty embarrassing, just mainly because kids actually, like, give a fuck about that kind of shit.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, my daughter's 13, and it's like, I got this blue 78 Chevy custom van, and when I first got it a couple years ago, I took it down to a van show in Louisville, and, like, we won first prize, and, like, she's, you know, up, she's, like, 10 or whatever, and so she's got this, like, giant trophy that's as tall as her, and she was, like, all super stoked on it. And then when I sold it to buy my shovel head, she was, like, mad. She was just, like, pissed off. And I got this other van. It was, like, a green, like, a shorty, like, a 75 van, which I thought was cooler. And she just hated it. Like, she's just like, this van sucks. I want the blue van back. So I finally got it back last month. And so I've been, like, rolling it. Like, the brakes went out on my truck, and I had to, like, drive it back and forth to work for a week. But we were driving around the other day, and it needs some, like, rust repair, but it's in pretty good shape for, like, being 40 years old. And we're driving it around, and she's like, Dad, none of my friends are like this. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, none of my friends have dads that listen to cool music or play music or have a chopper or a cool old van or even an old car. And I'm like, yeah, well, is that okay? And she's like,
you blessed, honey, yeah.
She's like, I think it's cool. And I'm like, good. I think it's cool too. And it's
really radical. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's really funny. And I you know, it's like we were saying at the beginning, it's just like when you grow up with that kind of, like, family, you don't know any different until, you know, you look at everybody else and you're like, oh, they're all kind of lame. They're just...
Yeah, kind of just, like, normal, and, you know, but yeah, it's super special to grow up just kind of in a, you know, wild lifestyle, whether it's, you know, choppers, cars, vans, like, whatever. It's just, you know, because generally the people that own those kind of things are awesome people that like awesome music, and they actually, like, go and do fun things and have really rad friends that, you know, they kind of travel with and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, there's, like, so many, you know, people that just have, like, fucking average everything.
Yep. And we're not those people.
Hell no.
Yeah. Did your dad do any, like, racing or anything when you were a kid?
No. I mean, he did demolition derbies,
Yeah.
like, growing up and stuff, and
like you'd go to the county
like, the big
fair and do
tracks, the dragsters and stuff. But that.
He would go to like county fairs and do demolition derbies.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being like at derbies when I was like seriously little, and I remember all my dad's friends and like all just like the rad, cars and mullets and just like seriously like beginning of the 90s, and yeah, so he never did any actual racing, and I think he quit doing derbies like kind of a couple years after I started doing him. Like he just kind of, it's a lot of work and a lot of money, and you get to see the kids smash shit, so he was kind of like content with that.
So you still enter demolition derbies?
He does or no?
You do.
I do. I haven't driven one for like 2 years. I'm going to do one this summer at the county fair. But yeah, I started doing them when I had my temp, so I did them for like every year for like 10 years. I'd come home from Colorado to do the derbies and stuff, and fucking smash and bash.
That's pretty awesome. What?
Yeah.
What's your favorite car to use in a demolition derby?
I mean, I always run the old irons, like the big fucking 80s. There is an Imperial at my dad's lot, and there's one county fair. Well, it's not. It's like a small town, like festival.
Right.
But they have like super gnarly demolition derbies where like if it's hidden, you can run it. So there's been people with like shag carpet with like seriously reinforced steel underneath, and I think this year I'm probably going to do a compact, which I've never done, but they just look way funner, and being a female that runs in these big ass derbies, dudes don't really like that very much. So I'm like a target for sure. It kind of just like gets old, and it's like a lot of work and a lot of money. So I'll definitely run an old iron, but I think I'm going to do a compact this year too.
Yeah.
So yeah, any big boat, that rips, and yeah, I'll drive it.
Cop cars, Crown Victorias, Caprices.
Yep, Crown Vics, yep, Caprices.
Yep.
Yeah, Roadmasters.
Oh yeah, the Roadmaster. Holy shit. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, we got a whole junkyard full of anything you want.
That's great. That is great. That's awesome. So
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. So do you still have the Rebel, or did you get a different bike?
I actually, the Rebel is still in the family, but I think it was the day before I moved to New Orleans. I told my girlfriend Sue, she lives up in Toledo. I was like, if you want it, I'll bring it to your house, $900, and you just can't get rid of it, and I want it back someday. Like I'm gonna buy it back from you, because my dad's cousin Bernie, so he's my great cousin. Him and his wife, they don't have kids or anything. They're just kind of like are ramblers and do their thing, and so with that being my first bike and Carol's first bike this year, we're kind of grading back in '86. Yeah, I kept it in the family, but I sold that right before I left for New Orleans, and then I had a Honda Shadow 600. Which I actually took to New Orleans with me, and I sold that actually out of the back of my trailer the day that I left New Orleans to come back up north. So
right, nice.
Yeah.
So you don't.
Yeah.
So you don't.
Around.
You don't have a bike anymore?
No, I got my first Harley last spring.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, it's a 2000 Sportster. It's a 1200.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm fucking in the Ripper Club.
In the Ripper Club. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, see, like, you have an advantage that I don't have, because you probably weigh 100 pounds less than I do. So, like, a 1200 Sportster to you is just like a total fucking rocket. Whereas
Right, it's a big bike, yeah.
Yeah, so for me, it's just like, I can go moderately faster. I can go slightly faster than a shovel head, like weight to horsepower ratio for me. So pretty good.
Yeah, it's fun. I took the forward controls off and put mids on it, and now I actually feel like a midget.
Oh, yeah.
So I gotta figure something out, whether it's like highway picks or something, and kind of just like extend it a little bit, because I'm like comfortable on it, but for long distances and stuff, like I feel like I would ride in the back seat.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've never really liked mids on a Sportster. It's like I feel like a little cramped up. I like them.
Right, yeah, no, totally. But with the forwards, like I could hardly reach, and it was pretty uncomfortable to stop and stuff like that. So that's why I switched it, and yeah, it works, but I'll figure something else out for it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. You got any big riding plans this year?
Not really. Not yet. I don't know. I kind of just go with it. I don't have anything super set in plan.
Yeah.
Like riding, I would like to take a cross-country trip. So I pretty much told my family, like, I'd be around for the summer for the junkyard and shit, but I don't really know what my plans are after that.
Right.
Just to keep it kind of loose, and that way when fucking August and September roll around, that I'm not, like, a dickhead for bouncing. So I kind of just laid it on them, like, prior. Right. But yeah, nothing planned yet, but...
Yeah, I think I'm going to try to go to Mikey's thing, Fuel Cleveland, and definitely Apocalypse Run. I never missed that. And then, I think they're doing Oily Souls this year. I haven't seen anything for 2017 yet, but I'll probably do that.
I didn't really see anything for last year, but, you know, they ended up doing it. But...
Yeah.
Fuel Cleveland, I went last year. They held it at Ray's, which is an indoor mountain bike park, and it was fucking incredible. Like, so badass, just because, like, there was so many people, but throughout the whole, like, mountain bike park, like, they had, like, on each, like, stage surface, they had, like, a bike there, and then, like, down, like, this set of, you know, whatever, like, there's, like, kind of, like, throughout the whole warehouse, and, you know, it wasn't, like, clusterfuck, like, shoulder to shoulder, and you could kind of just, like, walk around, and, yeah, it was really cool, so.
Yeah. That sounds awesome.
Better spot.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be there for that one. Pretty sure, in fact. Yeah,
and the lowbrow dudes are super awesome. They always have, like, cool swap meets, you know, like, once a month, and I've definitely done a bunch of those, and set up, like, just a bunch of shit. I like to sell shit for other people. I'm like, 10%? What's up?
Sweet. I'll keep that in mind if I ever get a vendor booth.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Dude, I roll on with a fucking, fleet of shit, and I don't care if I sell anything, you know. It's just like to get and hang out and, you know, meet cool people and browse around. Yeah.
That's the part I like the best, too.
Right.
Just talking to folks.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, anything else? We could talk about our difficult, hard to work for dads.
Oh God.
Or we could skip that.
They're the best, but yeah, just fucking hotheads. Like, you know, they have so much stress on them, and then it's like you fucking one person, even if it is a customer, you still say something to them, and they go the fuck off, and I'm like, God, that was the worst time. Like, I'm like so bossy to my dad because I'm pretty much like his right hand man, but I'm like, you can't fucking talk. You know, you can't say that to people. Right. You know, because his manners are much different than my own.
Yeah.
But well, you asked about if my dad ever raced a car, and you know, like he's had like badass anything. Like I've got like 10 old school radical vehicles like out of my parents, but he scored the '68 Nova from. It was this dude that passed away. His name was Matt Smith. He got it in an estate sale, and being the awesome dad that he is, I ended up with my first race car.
Wow.
And yeah, there's this place. It's out of West Salem, but it's called Dragway 42. And like these days, there's this place out towards Norwalk. It's called Summit, you know, and it's like the huge NHRA like races and. You know, it's, like, big time, but I guess, like, back before then, like, in the day, Dragway 42 was, like, the fucking poppin' spot, and, you know, so that was the first quarter mile that I ripped, you know, in that car, and it was really cool because it came from a guy that was passed away, you know, and I ended up meeting this guy around, like, because it's a swap meet, too, and then, like, you can camp, so my car was over by our camper, and this guy came up to me and was like, oh, my God, like, you know, started talking to me about this car and told me that he painted it and, like, told me that the guy's name was Matt Smith and all this shit. So, like, after that, like, I'm pretty big on spirits and stuff. Like, it was always, like, me and Maddie in the car. You know, when I come across, I'd be like, yeah!
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Do you still race that car?
No, we got rid of it a couple years ago, which is super bummer because it was like badass. Like he did super well, like posi rear end, all that shit. You know, he built one hell of a car, but you know, it was kind of like probably winter or something, and money talks, and so we got rid of that. And then they ended up shutting, Dragway 42 got bought out, but they just now are opening it. But it's been a couple years, but they completely ripped like every box, like every bleacher, like every bit of pavement out of there and redid the whole thing, and it's going to be, super gnarly. And I actually messaged them online about doing, like, promotional, like, event stuff, like having bands come and, you know, just swap meets and stuff. So I didn't hear back from him, but I know a friend whose parents, like, are hooked up with that dude through, like, their golf cart place. So I'm, like, scheming ways how I can put my foot in that door.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. It'd be really awesome. Yeah, I love that stuff. It's like just so much fun. Just like Americana, you just get like super salt of the earth people that come to it, and it's fun and just like watching people.
Good times, adrenaline.
Yeah,
it was like my first real adrenaline rush, and I had like white knuckles, like my first time ever, you know what I mean? But it's just like, it's fuel that fuels you. So, I definitely would love to get another race car.
Yeah. What's that, what's that Chevelle? Is it a Chevelle wagon you have?
It's a 68 Caprice wagon.
Caprice wagon. Yeah.
It's like a estate, just woody.
Yeah.
That was a barn find, pretty much. My dad went there to buy a car, and it was like, you don't even want to know how cheap. And it ended up mine, which is pretty awesome. I'm very lucky having a dad that owns a junkyard, and he's very generous, and, you know, I have to do a lot for him and all that shit. So one way or the other, we square up, but I think I always end up on top.
Yeah.
It's cool, though. I'm grateful.
I'm sure he loves doing that stuff for you, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Is that a 350 car?
It's actually got a 327 in it, so it's a small black Chevy.
Yeah.
Which I love because my birthday is actually March 27th, so...
No way.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
I love it. I really fucking love that car.
Yeah.
I probably am going to sell it if somebody, gives me $6,500 for it. Like, that'll be the tag to go.
Right.
And I won't think about it probably ever again. But, I really love driving it. It's like a big boat, and it cruises so good, and, it's a good time.
Yeah, those, man, I don't know. That'll probably be the next thing I buy. I mean, it'll be a while, but I'd like to get like a
wagon.
Probably just like a late 60s, early 70s GM muscle car. Like I have that Hoosier Dixie Car Buddy like Instagram profile. I need to update it, but I drive through all these little towns, you know, for my job, and there's just like always people that like, you know, they're older, they don't know, they don't know about Craigslist, or they don't want to hassle with going on Craigslist, and they'll just like stick it out in like the front of their, you know, garage or whatever with a, you know, hand painted for sale sign on it. And it's just like, I find some like rad, just super dope cars. Like last year, some guy had like, he just had like a Dart, but he started building a Demon clone. So he had like the Demon hood and like all the decals and everything. And it was just like a 318 motor, but it was like rad. It had wheel, you know, like cool like slots on it and stuff. And the dude only wanted like $2,400 for it. It was like running, driving, you know, 70.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like, I come across stuff like that all the time. Like,
it's wild, and it's super cool, and definitely. I actually started an Instagram called Seeing the Hustle, and it kind of started with like this like, old Chevy, I think it was like a 99 or 2000, just like work truck, but it had a rebuilt transmission in it. And it was a hoopty, but my dad wanted like $2,000 for it. And, you know, for a work truck, that's cheap. And, you know, it was a reliable, you know, truck. And I was like, man, I need to like hook somebody up with this. Like, how can I do this? You know? And I was like, well, there's 12 cars I need to get rid of that I could get rid of right now. So it's like, I don't really update it a lot. There's like quite a few cars I need to put on there. But it is, you know, just like helping people out, even if it was just like some random, grandma on the side of the road, you know, and you're like, hey, like, if you want to sell your car, like, I'll put it online for you, you know, and at least get it out there. And, you know, I like whenever people do well selling their shit and, you know, pass it along to other great people.
I can't remember what it's called, but so one day I was cruising through this little town called Shipshawana, and I came upon, it was like a 72 Charger and then like a 74 Chevelle or something, like nothing, you know, super crazy. But the Charger was like an awesome shape. It was like yellow with the stripe, really, really like perfect car. There was like the one quarter panel was dented, but I mean, it was like an easy fix. It was like right behind the B-pillar. Anyway, I put it just on my regular Instagram profile, and I tagged like one of those, like, you know, muscle car Instagram profiles. And I swear to God that dude drove up from North Carolina within a week and bought it because it was a super cheap car. Yeah. And then I was like, why am I doing this for free? I could just start a whole other one, and then maybe like people, you know, would buy it. So I got a dude in Australia, and he like reposts everything for me, and it's just like, I try to get people to come from Australia and like buy cars here because they like love, they love American cars and they can't get them down there. So,
so my dad knows of somebody around here that has like a fucking museum of like old Harleys.
Oh,
like, serious shit, you know, and it's pretty much like a bundle. It's probably like $125,000 or something. But man, I'm like waiting to meet the right person to like get in on that deal and hook them up. But you know, also make a pretty penny. And you know, I've definitely, like, my girlfriend Annalie, she's got some friends from Japan because they went for the Moon Eyes a couple years ago and stuff like that. But I'm always scheming, like, one, to hook somebody up with something badass, but two, how I can, you know, make a buck.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's just like, I'm always like trying to hustle, you know, like I'm happy to help people out, but it's just like, if I can make a few bucks just to like tell somebody about a car and like, you know, help them get it restored.
Right, that's like already a great price, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
What goes down comes down.
Yeah. You really are a hometown hustle.
Yes, that's right.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right, darling. Well, thanks for talking to me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was super fun, and
Awesome. All right, that was my conversation with Brooke Samples. Real cool gal. You can keep up with Brooke and find out pretty much everything she's doing with her life, including her half dozen jobs, her traveling, her motorcycling adventures, and demolition derby, and this, that, and the other on Instagram. And you can follow her at Hometown Hustle. She also has a car finder / car selling account for stuff she's selling at the junkyard. And that is Hoopty and the Hustle. And all of that will be in the show notes. It's 4th of July as I'm mixing this, and it sounds like there's a battle going on outside my house, but obviously it's not. It's just fireworks. Had a long weekend, and I'm pretty beat. I'm probably just going to go to bed as soon as I finish this. Hope you guys all had a good 4th of July, and your summer is progressing nicely. I got no complaints myself. but still trying to get the old shovel head on the road. Found out some parts I had didn't exactly fit, so kind of set me back a little bit, but I'll get it together soon when the time is right. Other than that, things are good. Music project is good. Everything else is good. Kids are great. Just, really enjoying the hell out of my summer. If you want to support the show, of course, the Patreon is still going. You can buy a shirt. All that stuff will be in the show notes. Hope to see you all soon. And until the next time, we'll see you down the road.